Hi, everyone, and welcome to Data Engineers Lunch number 56. Today we have junior engineer here at Anant, Stefan Nikolovsky, presenting on Spring Cloud Data Flow with Cassandra. And the organizers for this event are Rahul Singh, Arpan Patel, and myself. And we're always looking for speakers, members, and sponsors. So if you or someone you know would be interested in participating in any of these ways, feel free to reach out to Arpan or myself. Our emails are listed below there. We are part of a larger community. Data Community DC is a diverse and inclusive culture, and we support people of all races, genders, sexual orientations, and religions, and expect respect to be given to those classes. Sorry if you guys hear my dog rummaging around in the background. You can find out more about Data Community DC at their blog as well as events. And what we cover here is everything related to data engineering. So this could include sources to end user enablement, ETL, all sorts of things, cover a wide array of different technologies as well. So keeping that in mind, if you would like to speak at one of these, there really isn't too much of a limitation, just as long as it has to do with data engineering. If anyone's new and would like to introduce themselves, you can feel free to unmute and say hello. And I can pause. Otherwise, I'm going to continue with the group rules. If you have a question, please ask it. Be polite and courteous to others and share what you know. This is meant to be a discussion. Here at Anant, we deal with real-time and global data platforms on a daily basis. So something we're very passionate about and are like to present these learning materials to you guys. DataStax is a partner along with George Washington University and some other organizational sponsors. And if anyone has any jobs, meetups, or hackathons they would like to promote, they can do so here as well. Anant is hiring full or part-time positions for data platform operators, engineers, and architects. You can connect with us at careers.anant.us, and these are 100% remote positions are available. Some upcoming webinars and events. We have Cassandra Lunch, which has been moved to Thursdays, still 12 p.m. Eastern time though. This lunch itself is every Monday at 12 Eastern, and our next data engineers lunch is actually going to be over a newer technology, Transformco. We have their go-to-market manager, Allegra Holland, coming on to present Transform and some of its capabilities next week. You can find all of our events at anant.us/events, along with some of the recordings on the, we have a YouTube playlist for Data Engineers Lunch and Cassandra Lunch with all of our topics. And with that, I will pass it off to Stefan. If it'll let me stop sharing. There we go.
Josh, let me see just for a second here. Okay, I think you should be seeing my presentation deck right now. Quickly, my name is Stefan, and today I will be presenting on Spring Cloud Data Flow with Cassandra. This is my first try, my first look into Spring Cloud, or into Spring in general, and Spring Cloud Data Flow. So, I'll show up a quick, I'll do a quick presentation and then spin up a quick demo showing, just one of the simplest way to connect to Cassandra using Spring Cloud Data Flow. So first of all, what is Spring Cloud Data Flow? Well, it's a microservice-based streaming and batch data processing for Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes. It's a really interesting tool, and there's a couple of ways to deploying it, spinning it up. Today for this demo, kind of decided to go to with Docker version for local version because I wanted to play around with Docker Compose a little bit. But for Kubernetes, it's really easy to deploy on Kubernetes as well. It has a Helm chart, and it's really easy to use. A little bit more configuration if you want to add some stuff, but it has a very decent documentation on their website, yeah, it's pretty. Some of the examples might be a little bit too simple. I mean, not too simple. They need a little bit more explanation, but we're not gonna go through them today and see what issues I run into, and so you guys don't have to do it. So moving on, Spring Cloud Dataflow provides tools to create complex topologies for streaming and batch data pipelines. The data pipelines consist of Spring Boot apps built using Spring Cloud Stream or Spring Cloud Task microservice framework. Most important, I mean, one of the more important things that I got out of Spring Cloud Dataflow is it supports a range of data processing use cases, excuse me, from ETL to import, export event streaming and predictive analytics. So some of the features of Spring Cloud Dataflow is the Spring Cloud Dataflow server uses the Spring Cloud deployer to deploy data pipelines made of Spring Cloud Stream or Spring Cloud Task applications to modern platforms such as Cloud Foundry and, importantly, Kubernetes. Also, a selection of pre-built Stream and Task batch starter apps for various data integration and processing scenarios. So these in the YAML file that I'm going to provide you, there's a repository. We'll get to that later. They kind of like get imported themselves, but there is a few starter apps and task batch starter apps for Spring Cloud Dataflow that come pre-built. Of course, there's custom stream and task applications targeting different middleware or data services can be built using by the Spring Boot style program model. And also a simple stream pipeline DSL makes it easy to specify which apps to deploy and how to connect outputs and inputs. It also offers an easy to use dashboard offers a graphical editor for building data pipelines interactively, as well as deployable apps and monitoring them with metrics using something like Wavefront or Prometheus. So it also has like a really good UI, which you can use. Or if you prefer, it has Spring Cloud Dataflow server exposes a REST API for composing and deploying data pipelines, and also a separate shell that makes it easy to work with the API, which we are going to take a look at. And yeah, so not a lot to say. I am pretty new at this. I haven't really worked with Spring that much. This is kind of like my first go into. But I'll go through the demo. Tell you where I got stuck and some stuff. But if you're trying to run this for the first time, well, something that I can help you out with, and not spend some time like myself. So yeah, we are going to spin up Spring Cloud Dataflow in Docker. We're going to create a table in CQLSH, then create the stream and use the API to post some data into DSC. So with that out of the way, let's take a look here. As mentioned, let me just quickly post the GitHub repo. It just consists of this Docker compose file, which I edited a little bit. So what I added was this DSTax Enterprise version of Cassandra into the same Docker compose file that includes, Spring Cloud Dataflow entire compose file, which contains a MySQL server database. Excuse me. There's also a version to do with Postgres if that's what you prefer. I've included that into the repository as well. But MySQL seems to work fine. It doesn't make any difference. This version I did it with Kafka. I do think they do it with RabbitMQ. I believe there's an option to do it. If someone here has worked with that and can elaborate, but I kind of found it easier to use Kafka because we use Kafka here at Anant. Zookeeper, the Dataflow server, right? And then we have the import stream application and tasks. And then we have the Skipper server. And one important thing here to mention is, as I was building this and I was working with this, most of the streams that you're going to do will be handled by Skipper server. And if you're building this on Docker, you would like to expose a port, set that a port for a specific port that you want to use outside of 7577, which uses the API, so that you can communicate with, through HTTP with the stream. Other than that, if you don't specify which port you want to do, and I'll explain to you later, when we create the stream, are we going to specify the port? Just make sure, you expose in your Docker Compose file, whatever port you want to use, make sure you do it. Excuse me. And then you have that right here. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's spin this up. Also, in the repo, I did put here a link where you can download the jar file. 2.9.2, I think, is the latest version. And we're going to use that to use the data Spring Cloud data flow shell. And while we wait for this to happen, let me see. I think it's fairly quickly. It spins up. Maybe DEC is going to take a little bit longer though. In the meantime, if anybody here has any questions and would like to ask something or would like to add something, this would be the time.
Yeah, I have one question. So you mentioned like Postgres and MySQL. Are those more related to, like, instead of using those, we're using Cassandra today, or are those required, or like, is there like a SQL database required for Spring Cloud data flow, kind of like how Airflow has like a metadata database? Does a similar thing apply for Spring Cloud data flow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I was doing the Airflow one, it had the Postgres. So you need, kind of exactly, well, exactly, not exactly, but like Airflow, you need a SQL server in order for Spring Cloud data flow to work on top of it, and there's an option between, MySQL is the standard, whereas Airflow had Postgres as a standard. But there's still an option for you to choose Postgres here. But yeah, that's why we have two databases. Let me show you. The MySQL server is for the Spring Cloud data flow, but we are going to, connect to DataStax's enterprise version of Cassandra, and we're going to post data to it. So, yeah, you need a SQL server for it to run. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so give me 1 second. Now we're going to and as I mentioned, it comes with a shell in which you can easily interact with the API. And all you need to do is just type in java -jar and then the jar file that you want to use. As you can see, I have a few experimented with some older ones. I actually think this one came in like the other week. I was using 2.9.1 like the other week, and then I went to the website. They had 2.9.2, so maybe that upgraded. But there's also an older one which worked fine as well. And on the GitHub repo, you can see the link where you can download this. And first of all, we before we do anything of that, so we have the data stacks. And as you can see, the DataStax version, you can do like an Apache Cassandra version. I just decided to use DataStax for some reason, but you can use any version of Cassandra here. And as you can see, it's inside the Docker Compose. And what we're going to do is we're just going to create this sample table here. Maybe something important that I saw through the website is the class here. So Apache Cassandra local simple strategy. I know it just used to be simple strategy, but I don't know why is that. It's the way they do it in the example. So, just kind of following along with it. And next, what we're going to do, we're going to say inspect. And, oops, sorry. So, let's first look at the UI. I think it already launched, right? So this is kind of how it looks. The UI looks like. You have some streams. We can create a stream, and these are the dApps that come pre-built into Spring Cloud Dataflow. These are some of the options they have, but of course there's custom ones that you can build. So we're gonna do Cassandra, right? But we're not going to use this. We're just going to use the shell because it's kind of easier. And then I'm going to tell you a few tips and how it might, if you come into some sort of problem, in which I did. Oops, right here. So in the shell, we're going to create a stream called Cassandra stream. And we're going to say the server port is going to be 888. And this, goes back to what I said about, the skipper server in which we expose this port. So, you can put any port you want here that you're not using, apart from the ones we're using in Docker Compose. But then you have to make sure when you create the stream, you have, the server port matched as the one that you put in the Docker Compose file. So, you can connect to it and you can actually do API calls to it. So Spring Cloud is Strum application JSON. So we're going to be using JSON format, right? And then the ingest query is going to be insert into the table we just created. I know it here. Yeah, right. So the table we created, book. These are this is yeah. So ID, ISBN, title, order. And volume is going to be just UUID is going to be automatically generated, and these are going to be the ones that we enter. Key space is going to be cloud data, and then deploy. Now, this is going to be just like a few seconds here. Okay. Okay. So now let's take a look at the stream. It says deploying, right? So the HTTP part is really simple. It deploys. This is going to fail on the first try. And that's because we are doing Cassandra on a Docker container, which means it's going to have some different IPs, and we're not running it locally, right? So let's see, how we can make this published. So you can actually do this all in the shell command, like even in the beginning. But I found this really UI clean and easy to use. You can see a lot of the properties here, and you can actually edit them through it. So because we're using this from a Docker Compose, we're going to go ahead and see. I think it was this one. Yeah. We're gonna find the IP address, and the way we did that is by Docker inspect and the ID of the Docker container, and the local data center is gonna be this thing, and we're gonna update the stream. Wait for this to
I have another question. So can you essentially like build your whole like data orchestration from this UI? Like, could you like create, you mentioned you did it via the CLI this time, but you could potentially create streams within the UI itself?
Yeah, exactly. You can create the streams through here. Like let's say like MongoDB, was it like this? Yeah. And then whatever, something this and Elasticsearch, right? I guess this would be an example of how you can do your pipeline. I haven't really, it looks like it's really easy to use. I guess there's a little bit of configuration going along with it, and some of the sync options here look like S3 and Elasticsearch, are obviously some, Cassandra obviously are some of the major ones. And I don't know how to compare this into Airflow. If you can like kind of like draw the distinction between this and Airflow, I think I can see the similarities, but I don't know if exactly they're the same thing or similar thing.
Yeah, I guess my next question would be like, say you create this stream, right? Like, would you be able to like schedule it within this and then like also like track it? So like I see like there's audit records. Like, are there does this UI like allow you to see like logs from each run or stuff like that? I guess you'll get there once you run it.
Yeah, so I do believe that the way maybe you can schedule it is with task and task executions. I haven't really dive that deep into the tasks and task execution or jobs executions, but I think maybe that I believe that you can schedule them and then track them, of course. And it's a good thing that you kind of mentioned, kind of logs, because the first time when it didn't deploy, it's kind of like you can see the logs here, right? But sometimes the UI doesn't show you to view the log when a stream doesn't deploy, and if you want to see the log yourself, you're gonna have to go searching for it, and I'm gonna show you guys where exactly you can find it. So Skipper, right? This is what handles the. Well, actually, no, we're gonna do this. Let me show this. So, yes, okay. Oh, so let's find server Skipper, right? Right. So if you are unable to find the logs into the UI, just go into the runtime. This will say failed or whatever, or this will say failed. In in the streams they won't show up, so you can just see, and you can just find the directory, and then you have the logs here, and you can just do this. Right, and then you have the logs here, and these are exactly the same as here. But the only difference is, you can see this in the UI now, but if for some reason this failed, and why would you want to see? You would want to see the logs if something failed to kind of debug whatever happened. This is where you can find them. They're in the skipper. In the skipper container. You can either use, if you're using Docker for desktop, you can use this, or you can just do what I showed you here. And that's how you can see the logs. Next up, let me see. Oh, okay. So we kind of like okay, and we can see the stream that we created, Cassandra stream. We have some stream definition here, and it says the stream has been successfully deployed. And you can see that both of them, the HTTP and the Cassandra part of this pipelines have been deployed. And I think there was an option where you can copy or export as a JSON, or I guess it's a text, where if you just want to, kind of like import it into another data flow, you can just do it pretty seamlessly. And let's kind of see. So I'm kind of looking at it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna just use a post, it's like HTTP post, and we're gonna insert some data into the table that we created. And let's say again, we're gonna find the DataStax container. Look, and we can see, the data that we just entered here. And I assume this, can be used when you get to this point. The opportunities here are gonna be great, and I mean, like, you can do a lot of this with this, and then you can also, let's look at the stream, right? We can also, like, between here, do some kind of enrichment process, or we can do from one endpoint to do a backup, or whatever the data engineers want to do. Maybe somebody here can, like, kind of add, like, what you can do with this. But it's really, some of the stuff that you can do with this are great. And that's kind of like all I have for today. I really wished I could do a little bit more, or like create a little bit more sophisticated pipeline, but I'm happy that we kind of like reintegrated Cassandra into Spring Cloud Dataflow, and it worked really easily. So if anybody has any thoughts about this, or would like to expand, go ahead.
Can we get a bit of a comparison between this tool and maybe like Kafka Streams or Akka or something like that, or maybe this versus Airflow? Where does it fit into sort of the engineering ecosystem?
Yeah, excellent question. I kind of used, from the ones that you mentioned, I've only like touched Kafka Streams a little bit, but Airflow I've kind of touched, and it Airflow did seem a little easier to use than this, with the whole just creating a DAG and pushing a Python script or whatever, as opposed to this, which kind of seemed like a little bit more of configuration just to start using it. But I may be wrong. This may be even easier. I don't know if you can kind of compare, if you have ever used this, or if so far what you've seen, if you can tell everybody, does this look easier than Airflow or something like Kafka Streams?
Yeah, well, I haven't really used it for sure.
Yeah, I would say, like, it seems, yeah, like what Gautam said in the chat, it seems similar to what we did with NiFi. Like, it has the GUI, and then you can set up like a processor, right? So like kind of what you were demonstrating with like the Mongo to Twitter to Elastic. So like I feel like it kind of falls into that realm. So like it maybe like orchestration like Airflow, but I think in terms of like building an ETL pipeline, potentially it might be, if you have all of your configurations set up, there might be limitations in terms of what actual ETL you can do between things. But yeah, I see, like, I agree with Gautam. It reminds me of NiFi more so than Airflow.
Yeah, and we can take a look at some of the examples here that they have. So they have HTTP to Cassandra, they have to MySQL, Gemfire, So there's also a version of all of these, because we can even do this on Kubernetes on the cloud, right? But it's gonna basically be the same thing. They could say custom Spring Cloud stream processing. So they have a few applications and examples ready for everybody that would like to learn or would like to do a simple demo for them. They say analytics, kind of like what it looks like. Data science, right? We can take a look at building the demo, right? Like, yeah, so we get the important, we create a stream, right? Stream list, and then we post. Yeah, kind of like looks the same thing though. Functions, the monitoring, yeah, Prometheus again, Prometheus, also Grafana, right? Yeah, there it is. I guess there's like a lot of options for monitoring. Since it can look like, it goes with all of this Spring. Again, I'm kind of new to Spring, and so they have all these components here that I haven't really used, but I would assume they would integrate into Spring Cloud Dataflow easily. If anybody has used anything of this, except for Kafka, we can use that. Okay. Yeah. If there's not any more questions, Josh, I'm gonna kick it back to you. Closing.
All right. Thanks, Stefan. Looks interesting. And kind of, were you just going, when you were setting up this project, were you just going off their documentation and incorporating it with it? Like, what was their documentation like on connecting it to Cassandra? Is it NoSQL something they focus on, or?
Yeah, the documentation can get you only so far. Like I said, there are some stuff that I should shoot it in the dark, right? Like the port stuff, and when you create a Cassandra instance in Docker, you have to get the IP address from inspect, and some stuff that you need to configure yourself, that you need to know a little bit of knowledge before you can just like follow. I found it hard to just follow the examples, but even on Kubernetes, it's going to take a little bit more time. I spun up the Spring Cloud Dataflow on Kubernetes using the Helm chart. It was really easy to spin up, and even the Docker compose file that they have is really easy to spin up. But then again, when you want to do some customization, like we want like Cassandra in the same Docker compose file, and we wanted to create a stream on this specific port, kind of have to go in a little bit deeper and do some customization of your own. But all in all, if you are, if they were really easy to follow.
Mm-hmm. Cool, that's good to know. All right, yeah, if you have no further, we don't need to keep everyone. We can give everyone some time back on their day. Thank you, Stefan, again for presenting on Spring Cloud. And yeah, everyone enjoy the rest of your Mondays. We'll give you like 20 minutes back, and see you at the next Data Engineers Lunch to discuss Transform with the guest speaker, Allegra Holland.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody.